My entire mission on here, apart from getting to talk about the sports that I love the most, is definitely to raise awareness of UK hockey, because some people, even living in the UK, don't know that it exists, and I want to change that. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm Victoria and I talk about all things hockey and baseball related from across the pond in Scotland, and today we are talking about the problems that exist within UK hockey, because why is so little known about it and why is the league so small and so niche? Meanwhile, there are massive fan bases of us who absolutely love it. Historically, there are a lot of connections between Scotland and hockey heritage. So you would think that with such strong links, especially between Scotland and Canada, that there would be more of a well-known hockey atmosphere across here. But that's really not the case. I have other videos where I break down the structure of the professional league over here, so if you don't know about that stuff already, I would highly recommend going and checking that out. I have a little playlist growing just based all around hockey in the UK if you're more interested in learning more about it. But today's chat is more about why it isn't bigger internationally, why the leagues over here are so confined to such niche markets, and why it isn't marketed properly. So the first one, and the one that I would say is the most important, is just the lack of exposure the sport receives over here. And now I mean this through broadcasts, media, social media, and just basically any way of getting to other markets that, hi, we have a pretty good league over here, come watch it. Now I will say this has improved since I started watching hockey back in 2016. Back then there was no mainstream broadcasts, I had to just be individual clubs, and not every club even had a broadcast in the first place. There was no mention of it in newspapers or on the news or anything of that sort, and social media, it was very small groups discussing it, not a wider market. Now things have definitely changed since then. Premier Sports are currently the main sponsor of the EIHL across here, and so they do broadcast a lot of the games, and as long as you have a Premier Sports subscription you can watch those games. However, some teams more than others get more games shown, which means that smaller markets are pushed down even further, and also you have to have a Premier Sports subscription, which isn't the most common sports subscription for people to buy, because unless you're really into stuff like La Liga football or anything like that, typically it's more Sky Sports and BT Sports that do the most coverage of the most sports around here, particularly Premier League football and things like that. I would love to see Sky Sports or BT Sports one day pick up some EIHL games and broadcast them, because I think that the market would grow really well from that. I think more football fans and fans of other sports such as Formula 1, I think they would be more enticed to get into the league if it was more readily available for them to watch. This is also true of the media. I definitely see my local team appearing more in newspapers and in news articles, however not to the same degree as in other sports, as we'll get to. And I just think if there was much more exposure put out about this is what we do, you could gain a much bigger market. And sometimes I don't feel like we capitalised on the overseas market that we could gain from this, and I've basically built up my entire little brand so far just sort of showcasing that over here we do love hockey and we know a lot about hockey, and particularly to the North American market that's something that's often a surprise, and it's definitely something that I've built a lot of stuff up from. And I just don't understand why it isn't done more by the league itself. The league itself should be putting itself out there a bit more, making the games available to watch across the pond so that people can watch and get involved. Because hockey over here is quite different to the North American style. There's a lot more sort of the football culture involved in the hockey over here, and I really think that it could appeal to more international audiences if there was just more exposure given to it. This lack of exposure and lack of marketing is what leads to all the other problems basically that are involved in UK hockey. A huge one is the lack of accessibility for players. So there are not enough rinks, there's not enough ice time, and ice time is not readily available and it's costly. Meaning that it's really difficult for people to get into playing the sport, and it's often unaffordable for people with young children to get them to play the sport when they're young as well. It's so much more expensive to let your kid play hockey and have to buy all the gear, have to try and find ice time, and often have to drive hours to actually get to your nearest rink, than just letting them play football or anything like that is much more popular over here already, so it is much more cost effective and there are more resources, which means that at a grassroots level there is a lack of players coming through. However, we do have some amazing British players, so that is not always the case, and for those who are geographically and financially able, there are quite a lot of good Brits that come through the ranks. However, there is no form of college hockey or development hockey here, so either they have to sometimes struggle their way through the ranks within the British leagues, or they'll often go overseas, usually Canada or the States, train over there, go play college hockey over there. Sometimes their education ends up being over there too as a result, and then sometimes they come back. They'll often come back once they've got that sort of training and everything done across there. They'll come back over here and play. However, in that time we're losing out on valuable players that would play really well for us if there were just the resources to let them train and play over here to a higher standard. More kids coming through means more young players coming through our ranks and means a better reputation for British players overall, but without available ice time and training facilities, this cannot be achieved. And talking about lack of accessibility, this is also true for fans. Ticket prices are increasing, and while everything is increasing right now, the cost of tickets now compared to when I started going, for my club anyway, have really gone up. The cost of a stream, if it's not being streamed on Premier Sports, is usually £15 for a single game, whereas I pay about £15 a month for NHL TV, where I get almost all of the games minus blackouts. I got all of them available to me, whereas one single game in the EIHL is £15 now, which is super expensive. Game night prices have also gone up, season ticket prices have also gone up, and some people just cannot afford this stuff, especially right now. And while I understand that, of course, clubs and the league have to make money, they also have to make it affordable for people to go to, otherwise they're going to lose profit in the long run. The main example I can give of this is playoffs this year. So playoff final weekend is the biggest hockey weekend of the entire year across here, and usually tickets are quite affordable. I've been in the past and it was very affordable, and then you'd have to pay for travel and accommodation too, but honestly it was so worth it for the ticket prices. This year, they increased them dramatically. It was a significant increase. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there were no child tickets either. You were paying the same rate whether you were an adult, a child, whatever. And I will have to say, when I went, the lack of people there compared to previous years was really noticeable, and they must have lost a lot of money as a result, because their ticket prices were just so ridiculous that some people could not afford it, no matter how much they wanted to. That doesn't grow a game. You're not going to grow a sport by making it unattainable for people to go to. So you have to balance the making profit with also making it available for people to watch. Otherwise, you're never going to see any growth. I also noticed that my local football club, the season ticket price for me there was about half of what it was to go to my local hockey club for an entire year. Which means that if someone has to choose between going to watch football or going to watch hockey, they're probably going to pick football because it is much cheaper to go to. And this leads into the fact that another problem is hockey just isn't an integral part of the sports culture over here. Football is the absolute dominant sport. Everyone here mostly loves football. I'm not an avid football fan, but like I like it. I'll sit and watch it, especially if it's a good game. And as I've mentioned, it is so much easier to watch and to get into than it is hockey. Which means that hockey is always bumped down the ranks between football, rugby, golf, and even some other sports. Like Formula 1, I've noticed, has really taken off here and has grown really a lot over here in recent years. And hockey could do the same if it just made accessibility a lot easier and marketed itself a lot better. And so the main problem is there is just not enough appreciation for the sport over here. But unless you're going to market to wider audiences, and unless you're going to try and grow your clubs and grow the league, people aren't going to know. A lot of my friends have never been to a hockey game, and sometimes when I tell people, oh, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to hockey. Hockey? Here? In the UK? Sometimes it's in their city and they don't even know that there's a club. And I'm not under any illusion that hockey's suddenly going to be as popular as football and everything else, but I don't see any reason why it can't be more popular than it is right now. But unless you're going to make it accessible for both players and fans, and unless you're going to showcase your league and your talent way more through broadcasts, media, social media, I don't think anything's going to change. So basically, that's what I'm here for, right? I love hockey and I love the Leafs, and a lot of my content is based around the NHL and the Leafs. That is my primary content, but secondary to that, I really want to grow the game from over here overseas a lot more. I want more people to know about it, more people to watch. Anybody coming over here as a tourist, I really want you to come to a hockey game if you're here between the months of late August and April. Please come watch a game. Please come watch one. It's really good fun, there's a great atmosphere, and it is not appreciated enough. The fans here are unreal. We are so dedicated to our clubs because we have to be, right? It's not the easiest sport always to follow, so you have to be super dedicated, which means that you've got great fan bases, so you're going to be in with a great crowd if you do come here. So those are my reasons as to why UK hockey kind of sucks, not gonna lie. As much as I love it, from a marketing point of view, it doesn't work that well. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more hockey chats from across the pond soon. As I said, I have an entire playlist based around UK hockey, so go watch that, or if you're more into the NHL, I have plenty of videos on that too. And I'll be back with more hockey chats from across the pond soon. Bye guys.
We all play our part.